We live our lives increasingly online in the digital realm. This digital realm has for many years not provided us with particular certainty that the entity with which we are communicating is a person. Because machines are digitally native, but we are not. We are biologically native. The problem is that software is really the agent that is communicating in the digital world, not people. People just use software. And it's possible for software to communicate just as easily as people. This brings a problem, especially, and this problem is massively exacerbated by AI. Computers are beginning to speak to us. They're beginning to write to us. They're able to read what we write. They're able to understand what we say. They're able to paint for us and create music for us and understand what's in the pictures. We can very easily be fooled into thinking that some particular entity that we are apparently talking to is in fact a person, when in reality, it's an automated system. This is a big problem that I believe is in society. Not all societies to the same extent, but I think ultimately it will be a problem that all societies to some degree experience. This is really there to deliver one of the core elements of Web3, truth. Truth about whether you're talking to a person or a machine. I started building like Lego models when I was pretty young, maybe like 5 or 6 years old. My family didn't have so much money, so I didn't get so many boxed Lego models. It was mostly secondhand, and so I didn't have any instructions for building particular models. I would just have to build my own, which was fine, you know, gets the imagination going. And then I think around the age of 7 or 8, I was introduced to a computer. I got sort of interested in programming computers. I mean, I knew you could play games as well, but programming was very interesting. You could build things and make the computer sort of do what you were envisioning, what you were imagining. Game theory in general, and like coming up with new ways of interaction has always been a very interesting intellectual pursuit for me, like, you know, from childhood. Designing an enjoyable board game is very similar to designing a secure and useful crypto-economic system. The thing that's common between them is that you are designing rules for the emergent effect of the rules, not for the rules themselves. That's the funny thing, and that's what splits us apart from politicians. Politicians, lawmakers, create rules, but they tend to do so without any regard for the emergent effect of those rules. They do so because they are patching a problem as they see it in society. What they don't oftentimes realize is that the rules that they create, which are, in their simplistic reasoning, are there to fix some issue as they see it, will often have very different effects to fixing the issue. Sometimes they don't fix the issue at all, they make it worse. And other times they might do something to fix the issue, but they also have far worse repercussions than the issue itself. Unfortunately, I fear that a lot of the rules that we have in society are oftentimes not really based on their emergent effect, but on the short-sighted opinions of lawmakers. We are still on our path to creating this user-sovereign internet. It's a long path, and I think it was never, I never thought it would be a short path. I maybe didn't originally think it would be quite this long. Polkadot's vision has certainly changed as a heterogeneous, scalable, multi-chain network. It began as a vision of building what Ethereum now want to build over the next 4 or 5 years. That has changed with Jam. I do still believe that a multi-chain network is very useful, and for certain use cases, it's probably the optimal thing that we have, at least right now. Jam is the join accumulate machine, specified as a protocol, hopefully a very unambiguous specification, which is in the grey paper. And it combines, as it says in the abstract, elements of both Polkadot and Ethereum. It takes some of Polkadot's crypto-economic machinery, the sort of low-level thing that makes Polkadot so scalable, and combines it with a more Ethereum-oriented sort of interface or service profile. I think it's reasonably arguable that it is the next generation of blockchain design. It does actually securely distribute workload across the network in a way that you can elastically scale applications deployed to it. And this is something that I don't see anywhere else.
It hasn't been understood immediately, but now everybody realizes that decentralizing information, financial transactions, archive, recording is going to be key for the future of the way the world and the internet organizes itself.
I think the bottom goal or the umbrella goal that Jam would help is that it'll bring a lot more users to Web3, and it'll help onboard a lot of new people to Web3 who are currently not in Web3, my dad, my mom, whoever, I don't know. But I think this is going to take us to wider mass adoption.
When the first iPhone came out, nobody could imagine that all of these services are going to enable applications like Uber and Airbnb that combine payments, messaging, and GPS. That's kind of where we are at with Jam at the moment.
Like, people often ask who my heroes are, and up until not that long ago, I didn't really have a good answer. I never really had that many any obvious sort of heroes. I never sort of had this appeal to authority. In my mind, it was always there were systems, and some systems worked quite well, and like the system of science and academia, whereas other systems maybe didn't work so well. Overall, the concept of like authority has not been one that I felt very comfortable with. Not for others, not for myself. I feel that the world is probably going to be a better place without authority and trust, where people actually take the time and effort to, inspect and analyze the world around them and make appropriate decisions based on that, not based on what a trusted figure tells them or orders them to do. We see the order that the world has developed in crumbling, and it being very unclear about what, if any, order will take over. This is a very important time for Web3 technologies, partly to help resist disruption caused by fighting nations and fighting mindsets, and partly to safeguard against the possibility of a very chaotic international order.
I think GEM does provide a generic setup for deploying service, and it's fairly flexible, so anything can happen, and we are looking forward to see how other service can be deployed on GEM.
We think after the GEM launch, we will bring more application on the GEM, and it will solve the problem about the interoperability or the secure problem in the blockchain ecosystem. So we're happy to build more service on GEM in the future.
This is not only the discussion about the technical development. It's not only the physical question, it's more than a mental question. What we're doing is that we are push how humans develop. We are pushing the development of the era.
I wish to know better and know deeper about how it works, how it is organized. And I'm very excited to learn about Polkadot and GEM from Dr. Gavin Wood.
I see a level of excitement amongst the Jam teams that when you see people really taking risks with their own time, this gives a very different spirit, especially if they are capable of delivering. And in many cases, I believe they are with Jam. It shows that there is a sort of intellectual belief that's present that you don't really get with employees in a company. At the end of the day, company structure is, philosophically speaking, authoritarian. Right? There is a boss of the company, and they delegate to some extent to the C-level staff, and then they delegate further to maybe some team leads, and then the team leads delegate further to the regular employees. And this isn't the case with Jam. With Jam, I mean, I'm here as an advisor. I answer questions, and I try to demonstrate and prove, if only to myself, but hopefully to others, that what's in the paper is a good plan. But at the end of the day, the relationship is one of me merely proposing something and the implementer teams believing that that proposal is sensible, believing that it's in their own best interests. Maybe out of enjoyment, maybe out of education, maybe because they believe in the future it'll be financially good for them. But for whatever reason, they are acting to independently realize this vision. And as I said, the vibe is far more like that of early Ethereum than I've experienced in since 2015. People are excited.
The one thing when you meet Gav or when you see him speak in person, I think I've seen him speak in person maybe 4 or 5 times over the last year. The one thing that you really get out of that is that he has a long-term drive to improve society, right? It's not about blockchain. It's not about what's going to be the token for the next cycle. I don't even think that he thinks in cycles, right? Most of that is noise, and it's really about what is wrong with the world today, what could be improved, and how do we build the right infrastructure to solve it. And it's not that he himself or Polkadot itself is going to solve those problems, but it's going to provide the necessary infrastructure, the trust layer, in order that anybody else can build on top of it and build those applications that can truly help people, truly improve society.
The way he takes things the way his vision is towards the technology, that's very unusual, and it's more like a fresh breath of air. So that's exactly what, more than the session, I think meeting Gavin in person and understanding how things work in his head is what I think was exciting for me.
He could just stop here, right? In terms of what he's achieved, he could simply say, look, I've done what I wanted to do with Polkadot, I've achieved sort of its initial vision, and why do I have to sort of implement Jam, and what does that bring, forward for me? So I think there is probably a deep-rooted obsession around achieving some sort of goal that can sort of benefit people in the long term. So I think he's driven from that mission and wanting to impact and give people sort of control of what they have and what they own.
Six years, Gavin came to China. We know Polkadot, we learn Polkadot, and now 6 years later, Gavin came back. We will know Jam. People will know Jam. The Chinese community will know Jam.
One of the sort of terms that came up in, 2014, 15, was this idea of a post-truth society that doesn't believe in universal truth anymore. And I mean, there's perhaps some rationale to this, though I don't think it's true. Philosophically speaking, I don't think it's true. I do still believe very much in truth, and that it's up to people to find truth, and that decisions not made on the basis of truth, of what the person can reasonably believe is true at the time that they need to make the decision, is bad. But I do think that we did enter a post-trust phase. I think people are beyond trust to some extent, or maybe their trust is consolidating into some very concerning demagogues. Either way, AI is not going to help. AI is going to screw everything up even more. What free societies really need to do is try to stem the negative effects of AI, both with its usage within the society and its usage against the society by others outside. And the only way I can see of doing this, and of course I'm probably a bit of a biased observer, but the only way I can see of doing this is Web3 technologies. And the reason is very simple. AI is, at its very heart, less truth, more trust. We trust the AI, and in particular we trust those who provide the service to us, either by giving us the pre-trained model or by actually literally running a server with which, behind the locked doors of which the AI itself is run, the model itself is queried. We have no ability to understand. I mean, oftentimes even the people who trained the thing have no ability to understand, but we have no ability to understand this training data, nor do they have an ability to understand how it is coming up with its responses. This is very dangerous compared to the alternative, which is that we do our own research. As people become more reliant, more trustful, we fall into this trap ever more. So if AI is less truth, more trust, then we definitely need Web3, which at its very heart is less trust, more truth, to counterbalance it. And it's about time that free societies get on board, and not just get on board as in stop over-regulating it, but get on board as in start actually pumping money directly into those who are creating actual Web3 solutions.
Welcome and join the jam with long-term thinking. And welcome, Dr. Gavin Wood.
Thank you. So here we are for number 8 of the Jam Tour 2025. Thank you all for coming.